Hi and welcome. My name is Maria Karlsson Osipova and I'm a life science analyst here at Erik Penser Bank. This is not the premiere for Enzymatica when it comes to interviews at EPB, but it is a premiere for you, Klaus. Hi and welcome.
Thank you, Maria.
So before we dig into the report, could you tell us a little bit about Enzymatica and what you do and also about yourself?
Yes, I think I will do it in the reverse order, in that understanding a bit of my background and what I've done and the brands I've worked with in the past will underscore or underpin the excitement I continue to have for Enzymatica and our product ColdZyme. So I'm Claus Egstrand. I'm Danish by birth. I've not lived in Denmark since 1989. Lived in the US from 1989 to 2006, and then I've lived in the UK from 2006 until today. Over the years, I've spent 30 years in big corporate, smaller corporate, private equity-owned businesses and family-owned businesses. But I've always believed in the power of brands, because if you sell something that consumer wants, life gets a lot easier. I worked on brands like Nicorette that we launched globally, had global responsibility. We launched it in Japan. I've been the international head for Rogaine that we launched in Japan. And I've run tons of cough and cold brands in my tenure at J&J Merck, Pfizer, and Pharmacia. So with that background, I am very excited about being with Enzymatica, because we have probably one of the best products I've ever worked with in my life. When I want you to think about Enzymatica, I want you to always remember three things. We have a groundbreaking product. We're still in a global market with a large potential, and we have a very scalable business model. One of the things that people forget is that we actually have a product that we've seen tested in Sweden, Germany, Poland, and Italy, where consumers will buy the product again between 85 and 90%. That is the highest number that I've ever seen for a consumer healthcare product. The market that we're in is a global cold and flu market that is still very vast, and in which we are still in very few markets. That market has become even more interesting and buoyant after the pandemic. We obviously all had some challenges during the pandemic, but now that we're out of the pandemic, the future looks bright. And as you all know, we've worked with big partners like Sanofi and STADA across the world, and we're working with some exciting partners in China and Japan, the latter which we still cannot announce the name of. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a very thorough presentation. It's great to have you on board here with us in the interviews. So let's dig into the details. If you summarize the report, you have recently published your Q1 report. What were the key points that you would like to direct shareholders' attention to from the report?
That it was first of all, it was not nice to report on then Q4, but obviously we had strong growth against Q1 last year, albeit that Q1 last year was soft. The good news, though, is that we can see that we have growth in our home market, Sweden, and we're starting to see growth with our partners. So on the revenue line, we're starting to get back to normal, which is what we've been waiting for a long time. The other thing we highlight in the Q1 report is our continued focus on clinical development, and that we're looking forward to announcing results from the Glenn Davidson study, the University of Kent study, over the summer.
The Kent study is that's very much a key event that a lot of shareholders are waiting for. Can you tell us a bit about what the primary goal of that study is and how it is designed?
Yes, of course. But as you know, Maria, we've done a lot of exciting studies with exciting outcomes at the Medical University of Innsbruck that shows that ColdZyme in vitro has capability to protect against various viruses, including variants of SARS-CoV-2. Now, one of the things that people understandably will ask, well, that's in vitro. What are the results actually going to be like when you test the product in consumers or patients? So the setup of the study at the University of Kent is as follows. It's a double-blind placebo-controlled study that will have 110 participants. So we will have statistical significance between the active group ColdZyme and the placebo group. The study has a primary endpoint and a secondary endpoint. The primary endpoint is to show that the athletes using ColdZyme will have a shorter duration or a shorter incidence of upper respiratory tract infections. The secondary endpoint is actually to prove that the athletes using ColdZyme has a significant reduction of viral load when using the product. The athletes are taking swabs, throat swabs, on day 1, 3, 5, and 7. All of these swabs will obviously be analyzed after the study is stopped, and we will understand from the study, or the investigator will understand from the study, what has caused the upper respiratory tract infections. The viral load analysis is done on a spectrum of 42 pathogens, of which 38 are various viruses, and it would be very unlikely that we wouldn't be picking up viruses that includes variants of SARS-CoV-2.
And the results, I think I read something that we can expect the results sometime before the next flu wave hits us in the late fall. Is that correct?
That is still correct. We're on track.
Perfect. But until then, we still continue on using ColdZyme, and you've mentioned also in the report and in your introduction here that there's a very high rate of repeat purchase for ColdZyme. Could you give us a bit of flavor, like again, how high, and do you have any geographical data, or do you have anything that shows if there's a difference across different regions, or?
There's very little. Sorry to cut across you, Maria. There's very little difference between the regions. So we do the study every so often in Sweden, and the people that have tried the product, 88% of them tell us repeatedly that they're likely to buy the product or will buy the product again in the next 12 months. Sanofi, when they launched Serenol Virus Protect in Italy, did a similar study. Actually, we're closer to 90% in the repeat rate. And we have similar data from Poland and Germany. Poland was in the lower 80s because of, I think personally, but we don't know because of the price point. And in Germany, it was 87 or 88. So it's all done with external research companies that basically find ColdZyme users or Serenol users or whatever the brand is called in the market and said, you use ColdZyme, what do you think about it? How likely are you to buy it again?
Here you mentioned a lot of markets here, and for your seasoned shareholders, I think they all know that you are active on a lot of markets, more than 30 to be precise from your report. And you're also planning to launch in a lot of new markets as well, in Japan and Spain and Saudi. But do you have some sort of focus markets that you want to accentuate your attention on?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. Normally, you would decide early on that these are the 10 markets we want to be in, because these are the 10 markets that truly matter. But if you experienced the journey with Enzymatica, where we were only at MDD class 1, some of the bigger consumer healthcare companies didn't think the regulatory package as an MDD class 1 was strong enough. And then we had to work with smaller partners in smaller markets to get revenue. Now that we have commitments in 30 markets, we had to figure out over time which are the ones that are really going to make a significant contribution to make our financial goals of 600 million SEK in 2026 come true. So in any consumer healthcare business, the top 10 markets are the big 5 in Europe, Germany, France, Italy, UK, and Spain. Then you have US, Canada, Japan, China, and Brazil. So if I address those markets, UK we're in, we don't have a partner. We do it ourselves. The UK market is very expensive from an advertising perspective, but when we're very confident that when we get the Glenn Davidson report before the next cold season, that we will be picking up significant interest for bigger partners in markets we're not in. So UK, we're tracking a partner. We're not in Brazil. We're not in Canada, but we already have an approval, so we're obviously looking for a partner in Canada. We're not in the US. And then we are in Japan and China, where the registration efforts were delayed under the pandemic because people didn't go to work. So we have a clear plan for the top 10 markets. Now it's just a matter of timing and how we go and execute against it.
For China and Japan, what are the remaining steps to be taken before you can launch your product there?
Yes, so the first step we've already done, which is to find strong partners. So in China, everyone knows it's Guiyang Pharma, a subsidiary of Shanghai Pharma. That's the largest or second largest consumer healthcare company in China. In Japan, we have a partner. The partner is in the top 5, and a very strong partner, very interested. So the dialogue after the pandemic with both partners have picked up pace, and we're now looking at how to get the product registered in the 2 markets. There's a clear strategy in place. Now it's a timing issue, and once we file, or our partner files, we will obviously announce when the filing has taken place. And then depending on the regulatory pathway, it'll be 6 to 12 months after the filing that the product will see the marketplace.
All right. So if we zoom in a bit from the big guys and look at Sweden, our home here, you have mentioned in the report that the ColdZyme's share of the total cold remedy market was actually almost 5%. And according to the report, the older number was 3.6% for the same period last year.
Yeah.
Okay, did we summarize that you are basically happy with the marketing campaign you've had in Sweden?
Yes, it's a very good question. Sometimes if you don't understand what's underneath, you can pat yourself on the back for a share gain. The share gain wouldn't be very good if we were just growing less than the market. So basically, the market for Q1, the total cold flu market, grew 10% in units. ColdZyme grew 68%, which tells us that the campaign is working very well. And we can see in the data that the initial part of the campaign recruited a lot of users of 7 ml. And over time, it's clear that that's converted into 20 ml. So we see that the 88% repeat rate starts playing in. So we're very happy with the campaign. And this is all based on ex-pharmacy data that we get from IQVIA. So
maybe that could be one part of our updates further at EPV then.
Exactly.
And and my last question to you, Claus, is it's a pretty broad one. What should shareholders expect from Enzymatica in the rest of 2023?
So obviously, continuing to grow partner sales that have been lacking because of the pandemic. That's one. And then setting ourselves up for much higher future growth in 24 and 25 by getting ColdZyme filed in China and Japan.
Thank you very much. We look forward on continue to follow you on this journey, and thank you for taking your time to talk to us.
Great. Yeah, well, thank you.